In writing, a door can represent many different things. A door could be the unknown, physically obscuring whatever's behind it. Infinite possibility, because anything could be on the other side. The past, somewhere a character has already passed through, possibly closed and locked to be forgotten. The future, the next step in a character's journey. A door could represent ignorance, limiting a character's worldview to the contents of the room that it's attached to. But it could also be opportunity. After all, we've all heard the saying, I can open the door for you, but you have to pass through. And a door can represent choice, because ultimately it is up to that character whether or not they choose to go through. In Chainsaw Man, the door represents all of these things. A devil sits in a graveyard awaiting a group of people approaching him. He addresses the woman in front and asks her a simple question. In the perfect world she's trying to create, will bad movies still exist? She replies that she believes the world would be better without them, and he decides that if that's the case, he's going to have to kill her. Listen, bud, I like The Room too, but don't you think that's an overreaction?
I'm fed up with this world.
The group attack him and he's able to hold his own relatively well, that is until the woman joins in, after which he's quickly overwhelmed. She reaches into his chest and rips out his heart. He's lost and been defeated. But how did we get here? Chainsaw Man is a manga written by Tatsuki Fujimoto that first began serialization in Weekly Shonen Jump on December 3rd, 2018. Now, I read just about everything that Shonen Jump releases, and that means I read a lot of garbage. There's about 30% of Jump's catalog that is heavy hitter series that draw in the readers. The other 70% is mediocre or just straight up bad. Now, since I do read so much bad manga, I feel a great sense of pride in being able to say that I have read a good series since its first chapter released. I'm able to say this of Dr. Stone, Kaiju number 8, and Chainsaw Man. And let me tell you, when I read that first chapter, I knew I had something special on my hands. From story to characters to art direction, there's very little that Chainsaw Man doesn't do right. But where it really, truly excels is in the usage of subtle writing. Fujimoto has a very show-don't-tell approach to manga creation, which really takes advantage of the strengths of his chosen medium. And more than anything, he loves to read things up to the reader's interpretation, while also providing them enough context to not get confused. It leads to a manga that is, on the surface, just another shonen manga, but underneath the hood there's so much more going on. Our protagonist is a kid named Denji who starts off in, shall we say, not the best place? I mean, we're just skipping the whole apparent dying in the first chapter thing. His parents are already dead. Denji's father took his own life before paying off a massive debt to the Yakuza. And the Yakuza, who are not known for being nice, straight up American healthcare system that shit and passed it off to his next of kin.
You don't have free healthcare, do you?
So now Denji does anything and everything he can to pay off the Yakuza, including selling his own organs. Although his primary means of making money is by hunting devils with his dog, or should I call him a raw chicken, Pochita. All things considered though, Denji has a pretty good attitude about it all. He's not the kind of guy who constantly mopes about how shit his life is. He just kind of accepts that this is how it is right now, and does what he can to get by. That being said, he does wish for more. Denji dreams of things that, for you or me, are the bare minimum, or at the very least easily attainable. He wants to eat decent food like sliced bread with jam on it, and hug a girl. Well, okay, maybe the last one isn't so easily attainable for all of us. Listen, I know exactly what demographic watches my videos. Don't worry guys, we'll get there eventually. Maybe? Now since this is manga, things can't stay, well, I was gonna say good, but things can't stay horrible for long. The Yakuza come pick Denji up for a devil hunting gig, but it's a trap. They actually allied themselves with a devil that just kind of turned them all into zombies. Then it lured Denji in so it could kill him. And that's it, he's dead. No, really, they fucking chopped him up and tossed him in a dumpster. Very classic Yakuza. What do you want me to say? He's dead. End of video. Really strong manga. A bit short, but I like it as a concept. Would have liked to see it fleshed out. So I should probably explain the whole devil thing, huh? Devils are monsters that threaten humans in the world of Chainsaw Man. Each of these devils is based on human objects and concepts. So for example, if there's a tomato devil. If there's a chainsaw devil. If there are zombies, well, there aren't zombies. But the fictional idea of zombies is one that is well understood by most people thanks to the wealth of media created surrounding the subject. So, since the idea of zombies exists, there is a zombie devil with the power to create zombies. Basically, in the world of Chainsaw Man, fiction writers are complete fucking assholes because they are actively creating more monsters for people to deal with. Jim Starlin, what you doing back there, buddy? No, don't you do it! No, don't you! Oh, you son, you bastard! You bastard! Now there's a Thanos devil running around somewhere. What were you thinking? Devil hunters are people who get paid to kill devils, although the average strength of a devil is much higher than that of a human's. So in order to fight back, many of these devil hunters form contracts with devils in order to utilize a part of their power at a cost. So for example, being able to use the ghost devil's arm by giving it one of your eyes. So I'm sure you have two questions right off the bat. Number one, why, if devils threaten humans, would they ally themselves with one? And number two, why would they ever have to honor the terms of said contract? Well, to answer that first question, the world of Chainsaw Man is not as black and white as devils bad, humans good. There are good, or at least not evil devils, who will ally themselves with humans, just as there are bad humans who will abuse their power. And second, the word contract carries a lot of weight with devils. If a devil enters into a contract with a human, the terms of that contract must be met absolutely by both parties. If one of them fails to uphold their end of the deal, they'll die. You're gonna want a good devil contract lawyer.
Hi, I'm Saul Goodman. Did you know that you have rights?
You're not a real lawyer.
When Denji first met Pochita, he was injured and bleeding. Denji, recognizing that devils can regenerate if they drink blood, offered to form a contract with Pochita. In exchange for his blood, Pochita had to save him. And that's how their unlikely partnership that developed into a proper friendship began. Now that Denji has died, Pochita appears before him in a dream. He tells Denji he always loved hearing him talk about his dreams, and yes, he can talk now. Pochita forms another contract with Denji. Pochita will give Denji his heart, and in exchange, Denji has to show Pochita his dreams.
Have you ever had a dream that you could do?
What's going on with you? What are you talking about?
You could do so.
You sound insane.
This contract gives Denji a very unique power. So unique, in fact, that at this point in the story, it doesn't even have a name. We're gonna call it a hybrid. Like I said before, most devil hunters can only use a part of a devil's power at a cost. However, because of their union, Denji gains all of the powers of the Chainsaw Devil at no actual cost. He even gains the ability to regenerate by drinking blood, which effectively makes him immortal. With this newfound power, Denji immediately enacts his revenge by killing the zombie devil and all the Yakuza. In the aftermath, public safety devil hunters arrive on the scene. The woman in front ascertains that Denji is not a devil because he smells neither human nor devil, and will further elaborate in the next chapter that he has two scents, one human and one devil. Clearly, she's contracted with the Schnoz devil. This is Makima, and she's a public safety devil hunter. Public safety is a government-sanctioned organization of devil hunters. Even though he's not exactly a devil, Makima can't leave him be, so she offers him a choice. He can either be killed or become her pet and work at public safety. He chooses the latter.
Do you want to die today?
I'm alright, man. I'm in work here.
You don't want to die today?
I don't know.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm fine, man.
Makima is a very interesting character. She gives off a very kind, almost motherly persona on the surface, literally feeding, clothing, and providing shelter for Denji. And he quickly becomes infatuated with this side of her. But she can also be incredibly cruel. It may have seemed like awkward wording when Makima offered to make Denji her pet, but she doubles down by literally referring to him as a dog and threatening to euthanize him if he fails to follow orders. What a nice lady. Makima can be an open book, but she's not always truthful, and you always get the feeling that she knows exactly what's about to happen and just isn't letting anyone else in on that information, even when it might save somebody. Denji definitely picks up on these more negative aspects of her personality, but he's able to look past them, because at the end of the day, Makima has something that he wants.
A real setup with donkers, packing some Doban hunkeros, massive the hunka bankaloos.
You wanna know why Denji is the most relatable protagonist in all of shonen manga? It's because 80% of his motivation comes from his adolescent sexual desire. Tell me you can't relate to that. I fucking dare you. I am being a little facetious here, but legitimately speaking, Denji's progression of what he desires throughout the story is one of its strongest aspects. In chapter 1, Denji wanted to hug a girl. Well, great. He got that. But now that he has that, it's time for something more. Now he wants to touch a girl's boobs. Every time Denji attains something he desires, he realizes there's something more that he could want and starts chasing after that instead. Sometimes Denji gets what he wants, only to find out that it isn't exactly what he expected, and it makes him question whether or not he should have wanted it in the first place. Anybody can relate to that kind of dilemma. The story of Chainsaw Man is the story of Denji figuring out what it is he truly wants and going for it. But we're not there yet. Right now, Denji wants booba, and that means he'll do whatever Makima wants. But before we can get to some good old workplace harassment, Denji has to deal with some workplace harassment.
Remarks such as, "You can't teach an old dog new tricks," can be considered harassment.
Excuse me?
This is Aki Hayakawa, and he's Denji's new supervisor. These two don't get along. So badly, in fact, that before they can even have a proper conversation, Aki beats Denji up. Aki tells Denji that anybody who gets into public safety for shallow reasons ends up dead, so he should just quit now. This seems cruel at first, but let's not jump to conclusions. Remember, subtlety is the word of the day. Aki is a foil for Denji. You can tell right away in their first panel together. Aki has really good posture, suggesting that he's a very serious person, compared to Denji's slouched over form. The immaculate state that his uniform is in also suggests that he's a very by-the-books kind of guy, compared to Denji, whose shirt is barely tucked in and his sleeves are rolled up. On a more abstract note, Aki is depicted in mostly dark colors, representative of his experience, whereas Denji is depicted in mostly light colors, representative of his innocence and naivete. Aki is the opposite of Denji in nearly every regard. His entire family was killed by a devil before his eyes, so he views them as an absolute evil that needs to be stomped out. This contrasts heavily with Denji, who harbors no hatred for devils and has even expressed a willingness to befriend them. Aki's desire to get revenge for his family is what fuels his conviction. So he views Denji's goal of attaining basic survival needs and being close to Makima as laughable at best.
No-life nerd who's never gotten pussy before in his entire life.
That being said, if Aki didn't care about Denji, wouldn't he just leave him to get killed by a devil? Instead, he's taking the time and energy to try to scare Denji off before he can get hurt. It's a rough approach, but Aki means what he says when he tells Denji he's trying to help him. Aki has no respect for Denji, but that doesn't mean he wants him to die. This is the kind of character that Aki is, rough around the edges but good at heart. But Aki made one mistake. He mistook shallow goals for shallow conviction. Let's talk about relativity. It's gonna be a recurring theme. If a complete stranger walked up to you on the street and gave you $100, that would be a big deal. You could put it into your savings, maybe pay off some of your debt, maybe buy something nice that you've been wanting. However, if that same person gave $100 to Jeff Bezos, it would be an understatement to say that that $100 would make absolutely no difference. It would be like tossing a single gold coin into Scrooge McDuck's vault. But why is that? That $100 is worth the exact same amount whether or not it's in your hands or Jeff's, isn't it? Technically, yes. However, the amount of wealth each of you had before that $100 was added effectively changes what it's worth, and that's relativity. Basically, I'm calling you poor. Aki thinks that Denji's goals are shallow because for him, a good meal and a warm bed are easily attainable, almost a given. However, Denji has been living in extreme poverty until just before this moment, so for him, a good meal and a warm bed are luxuries that he's willing to fight to protect. Their goals may be vastly different on a surface level, but because of how each of them values those goals, their conviction to attain them is the same. Also, Aki likes Makima too, and he doesn't like Denji for that. Boys will be boys, am I right? And just because life isn't fair, Denji lives with Aki now. Just look how upset he is. Poor Aki. Now, like I said earlier, Aki is Denji's new supervisor, so they're not going to be working together directly all the time. And just like every cop needs a partner, every devil hunter needs a buddy.
What's going on?
This is power! And if you can believe it, she's even more of a loose cannon than Denji. You can tell right away by her boisterous intro and the frankly pathetic state that her uniform is in. I mean, Denji's shirt was never tucked in well, but she's not even trying. And she rolls up her pant legs? That has to be against dress code. Power is a fiend, which means she's a devil that took over a human corpse. Fiends differ from hybrids in that the original human's personality is essentially overwritten by the devil. They retain all of their devil power, but they are weaker than when they were a full-fledged devil. Their regeneration is also weaker. If Denji lost an arm, he could regenerate it by drinking blood, but if a fiend lost an arm, they would just lose that arm. Really, the only benefit to a devil taking over a dead body is that it can save their life in a pinch. But enough about what she is. Who is Power? Well, Power is energetic, violent, greedy, selfish, manipulative, a liar, and I love her. Pairing Denji up with a character like Power is nothing short of genius, because she's so unhinged that she forces Denji to be the voice of reason. Denji! The guy who's only willing to work with her because, you guessed it, she's got boobs! Just look at Aki. Look at this poor man. I imagine right now he's reconsidering every mistake he's ever made that led him here. So let's see. Aki introduced himself by beating Denji up. So how can Power top that? That's it! Kill him! Power had a cat named Nyako. And no, I'm not calling them Meowie. Translators out there, please don't translate names. I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to preserve the pun in the name, but it rarely translates well. Plus, it just creates confusion in conversations where people have read different translations. And all of a sudden, you got one side of the aisle talking about Neko Mamushi, and the other side talking about fucking cat viper. Just don't do it! So Nyako was kidnapped by a devil. Power offers to let Denji touch her chest if he rescues Nyako, and that is all Denji needs to hear. I love how Denji goes from completely disinterested in helping her to a white knight cat lover the moment boobs are on the table. I don't know if I mentioned it yet, but Chainsaw Man is hilarious. Unfortunately for Denji, it was a trap. Power didn't need Denji's help. She needed a human to offer to the Bat Devil so he'd give back Nyako. Unfortunately, the Bat Devil is an asshole and just vores Nyako anyway, quickly followed by Power. As Denji lays there, bleeding out, he recalls a time when he lost Pochita and how scared and afraid he was. He then questions how Power must have felt when Nyako was kidnapped. And more than anything, he still wants to touch her tits! This scene really shows how Denji can be a very empathetic person. Yes, on the surface, he's just doing this because of their agreement, but he also realized while bleeding out that Power didn't necessarily have malicious intent. She just wanted her pet back. He would have done the same thing in her shoes. So, Denji kills the Bat Devil and rescues Power and Nyako. Good thing old Bats doesn't chew his food, huh? In the aftermath, Denji doesn't push any blame onto Power. And again, on the surface, it may seem like he's just trying to protect his chance at Booba, but in reality, Denji just doesn't harbor any resentment for Power because he was able to sympathize with her. And Power lives with them now too, because Aki just cannot catch a break. When Denji came to live with Aki was annoyed by all of his living habits. Now that Power's come to live with them, they're both annoyed by her habits. How did you do that, Fujimoto? How did you write a character like Denji and then write another character who's somehow even worse? She doesn't bathe regularly, for God's sake. Tell me she isn't best girl. I fucking dare you. But Denji's willing to forgive this behavior too, because the time has come. They had an agreement, and Power's ready to honor it. It wasn't what Denji was expecting. He viewed this simple act as something so unattainable yet so desirable that he eventually worked it up into something that it could never be. His expectations soared to such heights that he viewed the act of touching boobs as something forever life-altering, and no matter what, it could never live up to that expectation. I'm sure we've all felt this kind of disappointment before, and it's very disheartening. It really throws him for a loop though, because this is the first time he's ever been so wholeheartedly let down. It makes him question whether or not he's going to be let down again in the future. Who knew such a horny guy could finally touch boobs and then fall into a deep depression? See, there's character depth here, guys, I told you! Makima notices that Denji's feeling a little off, and after explaining himself, she decides to do something about it. As a more experienced individual, she explains to Denji that she believes such intimate acts feel better the more you know your partner. That he should learn what her hands feel like, how her ears are shaped, what her bite feels like, and then... This is what Denji was looking for! This is tits! Big booba moment, lads! But, just like my dealer tells me every day, ecstasy doesn't come for free. Now that Makima has his attention, she has a request for him. I'll remind you that devils are based on words in the human vernacular. What I haven't mentioned yet is that a devil's strength is based on how feared that word is. So again, if there are tomatoes, there's a tomato devil. But a tomato devil would not be particularly powerful because tomatoes aren't something that's traditionally feared. However, blood, on the other hand, does make a lot of people uncomfortable. Blood can also bring to mind the situations in which blood might be present, such as violent scenes or tragedies. So, as the blood devil's fiend, power is very powerful, no pun intended. It's worth pointing out that this concept only affects a devil's base strength. It doesn't account for something like their actual skill with their own abilities. It's not some cheap power level concept so Fujimoto can avoid writing powerful enemies. We're not gonna have a situation where Denji meets an enemy and they're like, "Aha, Chainsaw Man! You are very powerful indeed, though you are the Chainsaw Devil, I suppose. However, you stand no chance against me, for I am the Five Nights at Freddy's Devil!" Makima wants Denji to kill the gun devil. I don't think I have to stop and explain that, yeah, the gun devil is pretty fucking powerful. But just in case you need an example to help you sleep tonight, when the gun devil first appeared, it hit 8 different locations across the world in the span of 5 minutes. In that time, it killed 1.2 million people. The gun devil is the one that killed Aki's family and the one that he seeks to get revenge on. Most of the world is hunting for the gun devil. Makima wants Denji to kill it, and if he can, she'll grant any wish he desires. And yeah, that motivates him plenty. It's pretty obvious that Makima is manipulating Denji here. She's abusing his overactive sexual desire to fulfill one of her goals. But even if Denji wasn't too stupid to notice, I don't really think he'd care. This is a golden opportunity in his mind. He's not giving that up. If I haven't made it abundantly clear already, Chainsaw Man has incredible character writing. So much so that it actually made it harder to write this video. There are so many little character interactions, so many little moments that hold so much importance that if I was to stop and talk about every single one, we'd be here for 12 hours, and I don't think anybody wants that. Or maybe you do. You guys are weird. I read a book once called Manga in Theory and in Practice by Hirohiko Araki, the mangaka behind JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. In it, he spoke about his process for creating characters, which for him involves writing a character history. That character history covers basic information about a character, such as their name, their age, their likes, their dislikes. But it also covers information that may not ever actually be relevant in the story, such as what kind of music they listen to, who they look up to, when they were born. There's 2 reasons that he does this. The first is so that he can kind of come up with a mental image of what that character looks like before designing them. And the second is so that he can ensure that when that character is placed into any given situation, there won't be inconsistencies with how they would react to it. I believe that Fujimoto has to write characters with a very similar process because all of his characters are just so authentic. We've spoken before about how it's important to write characters that can exist outside of their given role in a story, otherwise they risk failing to be a character at all. And this is something that Fujimoto excels at. He writes characters that have believable ambitions, that react in believable ways, and most important of all, they don't exist to simply service a role within the main plot. It's shocking how few writers can manage that last part. To show you what I'm talking about, let's take a look at our next character. This is Himeno. She's eccentric but kind. She's flirty. She cares a lot about the people she works with, but she can be a bit of a bad influence. She openly touts how awesome it is to have an addiction, and she's the one who got Aki to start smoking. She's Aki's buddy and has been since he started with public safety. She also has a massive crush on Aki. She cares about him more than anyone else and is constantly trying to get him to quit public safety and give up on killing the gun devil. When Denji first meets Himeno, they get trapped by a devil with no escape. That is until the devil offers them a contract. If they kill Denji, they can all go free. It's not clear why the devil wants Denji in particular, but it has something to do with him being the chainsaw hybrid. The rest of the team, who's going a bit stir-crazy, is all for this idea, including Power. But Aki and Himeno are against it. That is until Aki's safety gets called into question, after which point Himeno immediately joins Team Kill Denji. The idea of losing Aki makes Himeno completely fall apart. It all works out in the end though because Denji goes full psycho mode and kills the devil. After the battle, Himeno arranges for everybody to get drinks so they can apologize to Denji, during which she gets super drunk and gives him a big ol' sloppy kiss. And by sloppy, I of course mean she throws up in his mouth. Oh, Denji is 0 for 2 on first experiences. But why would Himeno kiss Denji if she likes Aki? Well, as anyone who's ever had an anime girl profile picture will someday learn, being horny and being in love are very different things. Then she takes him back to her place and tries to fuck him. But Denji rejects her advances? Huh? What? That's right, character development! Denji has had 2 disappointing firsts already. He's realized that taking the most available option is not always the best choice. And knowing that, he's decided to save himself for Makima. What a romantic. In the morning, Himeno apologizes and offers to help Denji out. She'll help Denji get together with Makima if Denji will help her get together with Aki. And this is the start of a beautiful friendship. Himeno becomes a bit of a mentor for Denji, helping him navigate through life. She also helps Denji recognize that Aki isn't such a bad guy and helps him to find some common ground. I made that last part up. Himeno gets shot and killed in the very next chapter. All of that character writing, all of that relationship development. Fujimoto wrote a character that complete just to kill them 12 chapters later. This is an important lesson. Many characters in Chainsaw Man are important, but they won't all survive. So, who killed Himeno? This guy. He's part of a much larger, concentrated effort to take out all of the Public Safety Special Division Devil Hunters in one fell swoop, including Makima. She's okay. He also specifically mentions that the Gun Devil wants Chainsaw's heart. Aw, that's cute. Gun Devil has a crush. Aki attacks the man with his Fox Devil, but it's not enough. Oh yeah, we got another hybrid on our hands. This guy is the Katana Devil, and he beats the absolute shit out of Aki and Denji. Power's okay. She ran away. It's pretty clear that this guy is way more skilled with his hybrid abilities than Denji, because Denji is completely overwhelmed. Lucky for him, he's got a guardian angel. So here's the deal. After getting shot in the head, Makima stood back up and killed her attackers. Then she collected a bunch of inmates at a temple and one by one had each of them say the name of one of the people attacking Denji, which allows her to fucking squish them like a grape. Then the inmate also dies. If you can tell me what devil she could possibly be contracted with that allows her to do that, you win a screenshot of an NFT worth $1 million. Katana Man is forced to retreat without taking Denji. You know how I mentioned how Makima always seems to know what's about to happen? Well, following this mass assassination, all the special divisions are condensed into one under Makima's control. And she seems eerily pleased by that news. When confronted directly and asked if she knew this was going to happen, she completely deflects the question. Aki and Denji react very differently to Himeno's death. Aki is distraught. Himeno was his friend, and in many ways his mentor. Aki cares about protecting everybody, but Himeno was especially important to him. I'm sure it's painful for him to realize that Himeno probably wouldn't have died if he'd agreed to quit public safety with her. It's even more heart-wrenching to see him realize that she only ever wanted to quit public safety for his sake. Himeno represented a door for Aki. Another option in life, another path, an opportunity for him to give up on his revenge and live a more peaceful, safe life. But now that she's dead, there's absolutely no reason for him to go down that path, so that door has closed. Denji, on the other hand, kinda doesn't care. In fact, the strongest emotion that Himeno's death evokes in him is a fear that he's lost his human heart because he doesn't care. We've seen Denji be empathetic before, so why isn't he bothered by this? This battle made two things clear. The enemy is targeting Denji, and Denji is a weak little soy boy. So Makima arranges to have Power and Denji trained. This is Kishibe. He's the strongest public safety devil hunter. He's a grizzled old drunk who would be played perfectly by Mads Mikkelsen in a live-action Chainsaw Man. Please don't make a live-action Chainsaw Man. Kishibe trained Himeno, and he holds a belief about devil hunters that he touts like a catchphrase. The devil hunters that the devils fear most are the ones with a few screws loose. He believes that any sane person would be afraid of hunting devils. And since devils grow stronger through fear, the strongest hunters are the ones who are too insane to fear them. So if you can't tell already, since he's the strongest public safety devil hunter, Kishibe ain't all there himself. So how is he gonna train Power and Denji? That's it! Kill them over and over again! Once again, I have to point out how brilliant it is to pair up Denji and Power. They realize that Kishibe is too strong to beat in a head-on fight. So get this. These two absolute morons. These two fucking idiots who have a collective IQ of 43 decide that if they want to beat him, they have to outsmart him. Just look at these two. They actually think that putting on glasses makes them smarter. I love these two dunces with all of my heart. Anyway, it doesn't work, but Kishibe does praise them because it's more effective than just charging in blindly, which is their usual fighting style. It's proof that they have gotten stronger to some extent. Aki's means of getting stronger is to form a contract with a stronger devil. He manages to strike a deal with the future devil, and a pretty good one at that. He gains the ability to see slightly into the future by having the future devil live in his eye. The future devil tells him that he's going to die in the worst possible way, and it wants to see that for itself. Now that everybody's had a little power up, it's rematch time, and Special Division 4 has some new members on its ranks to even the odds. We've got Beam, the Shark Fiend, who is just wonderful. We like Beam in this house. Galgly, the Violence Fiend, the Spider Devil, who is creepy, and the Angel Devil, who is Aki's new buddy. Kobeni's also there. She was already there, but I haven't had a chance to talk about her. She's really strong, but she's so unbelievably timid that she doesn't end up doing anything most of the time. She's really good at peeing her pants. But come on, we all know what we're here for. Chainsaw versus Katana round 2, and is it finally time for me to talk about the art direction? Oh, I have been dying to talk about this. Tatsuki Fujimoto has a very unique art style that utilizes a lot of rough, sketchy lines. This works really well with the very messy designs that he comes up with for devils. He has an incredible ability to convey action scenes, with the katana fight being one of my personal favorites. There's such a clear flow from one panel to the next, so you never get lost in what's happening. And there's an incredible sense of impact when characters clash together. He loves to utilize really over-the-top onomatopoeic characters and action scenes, with the sound of Denji's chainsaws being displayed loud and proud throughout a lot of his fights. Fujimoto is also a master of composition, and it makes his panels so utterly striking. Take a look at this panel from Chapter 1. Listen, I'm not an artist, nor am I an art appraiser, so I find it difficult to explain in words why I like some of this stuff, but just look at it! The way the zombie devil's split corpse frames Denji combined with the harsh lighting makes him look absolutely terrifying. How about this page of Denji defeating the Eternity Devil? The way the blood curves around his back and onto his chainsaw blade directs your eye to carefully examine each part of the panel and really take it all in. Oh, I love it. The last one I'll talk about is just this introductory page for Katana. It's so imposing and intimidating. It's incredible how much detail Fujimoto is able to get across in his clothes and face, despite only using black, gray, and white. Chalk it up to effective cross-hatching, I guess. If I could stop and talk about every panel in this manga that I love, we'd be here all day. But I have one more thing I want to talk about. Fujimoto is a genius when it comes to using color. His color work is an absolute joy to see every time. His color spreads usually fall into one of two camps. Spreads that utilize flat, dull colors in order to convey a sense of calm or peace, and spreads utilizing striking, bright colors in order to emphasize the distorted nature within them. Take, for example, the cover of Volume 1. You've got this striking orange background contrasted with the bright green blood splatters. It's so visually interesting. If I saw this in a bookstore, I would absolutely be picking it up. Then we can take a look at this color spread from chapter 15, which utilizes much more muted colors, really only emphasizing the green of the plant life. It's cute. They look happy. Then we can jump back over to this volume 7 cover, which has Denji depicted entirely in bright pink against a dull blue background. All the other characters' faces are also depicted in muted colors, so that Denji really pops out against it. I really hope to see Mappa lean into this usage of color in the Chainsaw Man anime. This was a really long tangent, but Fujimoto is an incredible artist, and I just wouldn't feel right not talking about it. So, Denji's fighting Katana. He holds his own much better than before, but he's definitely still struggling. He loses both of his arms protecting a civilian, but it's okay, because he still has the chainsaw on his head. But wait, it was a trap. He tricked Katana into aiming for his head so that he could cut Katana in half with a chainsaw he sprouted from his leg. Kishibe's training paid off. Denji won because he was fighting with his brain for once. This next scene is just, it's just incredible. Denji knows he can't kill Katana because public safety wants to question him about the gun. But he doesn't think it's fair that after all he's done, he gets to get away with only going to prison. But he has an idea for some payback. Aki arrives on the scene and Denji proposes a little contest. You ready for this? They're going to take turns kicking Katana in the nuts, and whoever gets the strongest scream out of him wins. What else can I say? It's a very Denji kind of idea, isn't it? Aki knows they're not supposed to torture him, but he does have some personal stakes in this situation. This scene is so important because it shows how Aki and Denji have affected one another. By not outright killing Katana, Denji is showing his ability to follow the rules and do what he's supposed to do, a lot like Aki. And Aki is showing his ability to lighten up on the things that don't matter so much, like Denji. It's also just a really cute bonding moment. Look how much fun they're having. See, I wasn't completely lying when I said he meant it would lay the groundwork for their relationship. Denji dreams of a door in an alleyway. He can hear Pochita's voice on the other side and begs him to come out, but Pochita refuses. He warns Denji not to open the door, no matter what. Then Denji is jolted awake as if he's had a nightmare, but having no recollection of what he actually dreamt about. It's not clear what could be behind the door. Maybe it's some secret that Pochita is hiding from Denji. With all the enemies who've come to get Denji's heart, it seems obvious that there's more going on with the Chainsaw Devil than we know about. But the Chainsaw Devil we know is just a weird little raw chicken dog. And actually, why was he like that? Chainsaws are objects that have a lot of fear attached to them. They're meant to be used as tools, but in the wrong hands they can be very dangerous, as we've seen in media like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yet at the same time, chainsaws are hardly the scariest objects out there, so it doesn't make sense that there's so many enemies who are after the Chainsaw Devil. Yet at the same time, it doesn't make sense that Pochita was just some weak little devil. Clearly there's more to this story that we don't know. Maybe something that Pochita doesn't want Denji to know. Makima notices that something is bothering Denji and offers to take him out on a date to cheer him up. And oh boy, does it. Wow, Makima, you really know how to lift up this little horny boy's heart. Among other things. Really, anytime Denji's losing motivation, Makima says or does something to rekindle his interest in her. Although ultimately it's an empty gesture because she never shows a desire to actually advance some kind of relationship. Again, either Denji doesn't notice his motivation or simply doesn't care. The pair spend the day hopping from one theater to the next watching movies, but Denji doesn't really like any of them. Neither does Makima, who can state a pretty clear reason to dislike each of them. Denji laments his inability to connect with any of the movies, but Makima reassures him that only 1 out of every 10 movies is actually worth watching. She proves her point because the last movie they watch puts them both in tears. After they leave the theater, Denji asks Makima if she thinks he has a heart. He's clearly still bothered by the fact that he had no reaction to Himeno's death, and his inability to connect with the movies today must have rekindled his fear that he lost his human heart. In response, Makima just listens for a heartbeat, which immediately erupts like a drum beat in Denji's horny little body. That's all he needs to know, that he does indeed still have a heart. I really want to talk about this chapter, but I can't. Not yet. Just keep it in mind because it's one of the most important chapters in the entire series. So, Denji is reinvigorated by the knowledge that he does indeed still have a heart, and his feelings for Makima are bolstered, believing he could never love anyone else. But there's a problem. A darkness coming for Denji that will shake his beliefs to their very core. Woman. This is Reze, and she represents a real internal struggle for Denji. She's cute, friendly, she thinks Denji is funny. Where Makima is an older, more mature woman who actively engages in Denji's feelings for her but never reciprocates, Reze is much closer to Denji's age and gives off strong hints that she likes him. That's a problem because Denji's starting to like her back. I've criticized other manga in the past for how they handle romance. Specifically, we often see characters falling in love with one another just because they're nice to each other. There's no semblance of an actual connection between two characters beyond a surface level. We're just expected to believe that two characters are meant to be together for life based on superficial characteristics. I love what we're seeing here with Denji because yes, he is quote unquote falling in love with Reze, basically just because she shows affection for him. But this works for 2 reasons. First of all, Reze displays more complex reasons to like Denji. She likes that he's sweet and funny, and for base level affection, that's more than enough. And second, I've said it before and this just reiterates it. Denji doesn't know what he wants. Denji has very little experience with this kind of thing. He doesn't know what he's looking for or what to value. Plus, let's not forget that Denji is only 16. Let me tell you, I can relate to falling in love with every girl who was nice to me at that age. More than that though, there's another really big reason that this works. Denji has had proper feelings for 2 girls now, Makima and Reze. What's the big difference between these two? Makima treats spending time with her and having a relationship with her as some hot commodity, something Denji has to work for, something he only gets if he does something for her first. Reze is offering a relationship unconditionally. Reze represents an opportunity for Denji to recognize that maybe, just maybe, Makima is taking advantage of him a little bit. Heck, Reze really calls a lot into question for Denji. She expresses concern for how he's living his life. Denji doesn't recognize that he's being taken advantage of because for him, 3 square meals a day and a warm bed are luxuries. For him, the cost of getting cut in half by Katana is paid by that simple reward. But Reze points out that that's not special. It's the bare minimum. Again, relativity. Denji's skewed way of valuing things means that he can't recognize his own worth and that he deserves basic human rights. But there's another problem entirely. Something else Denji doesn't recognize is how valuable his chainsaw heart is to the enemy. Anything they can use to get that from him is fair game. Even an innocent bystander like Reze.
Look at the top of his head!
An assassin appears and chases Reze. He tells her he's going to cut off her skin and gouge out her eye so that he can make Denji give up without a fight. He attacks her and... From what I understand, the Russian in these panels is a lullaby, but it's not a real lullaby. It's just something that Fujimoto made up. But the message is clear. Reze isn't who she says she is. And just like everybody else, she's using Denji. The following day, the pair go on another date where Reze again expresses concern for Denji's situation, but this time she offers a solution. She asks Denji to run away with her. Of course, we know that this is just a trap to lure him away from public safety, but to Denji, this is very much a real offer. He hesitates, but ultimately decides that no, he can't run away with her. He cites how well things have been going for him recently as a reason, specifically pointing out how he's managing to get along with Aki and power. Like Himeno did for Aki, Reze is offering Denji an open door. If Denji runs away with Reze, he gains a whole world of possibilities. He could go to school, live life like a normal kid, form a proper relationship with Reze, but in doing so, he would close the door to what he already has. He'd lose Aki and power. He'd lose Makima and all the progress he's made in public safety. He wants to be with Reze, he really does, but losing what he's already gained is too steep a price to pay, so he's prepared to close that door. Reze reads between the lines and infers that what Denji's really saying is that he likes someone else that he doesn't want to lose. Before he can answer, she goes in for a kiss and... man, Denji has some bad luck. The first girl he kissed threw up in his mouth, and the second, well, she bit his tongue off. Poor Denji, man. Hasn't the lad earned one normal kiss? Just one. Come on, Fujimoto, cut him a break. Reze enacts her plan to get Denji's heart the other way this time, even preventing him from going chainsaw mode. Basically, Denji's super screwed. Or is he? We like Beam in this house, don't we? Beam manages to get Denji away from Reze, but he's got to run fast if he wants to save Denji. Because Reze isn't just a particularly effective assassin. She's the bomb hybrid, and she is not letting Denji get away. Beam barely manages to get Denji to Aki, who goes into full escape mode, believing that Reze is too powerful to fight. But Denji's not having it. As soon as he's revived, he turns around to face Reze. He expresses frustration that everybody's after his chainsaw heart, but nobody wants his heart. I'm 14, and this is deep. Reze responds by saying that she really does like Denji, and he almost falls for it, but Aki snaps him back into reality. Now the fight can truly begin. Except Reze is really, really strong and beats the absolute shit out of Denji. And listen, I try not to give a play-by-play of every fight in this series because, believe it or not, I am trying to limit how long this video is, but we have to stop. You have to see this. It's so absurd. Reze turns Denji into a charred torso, blowing off everything but his head and chest. He would be completely screwed here, except Aki hid amongst some corpses left by Reze's attack until he got a chance to cut off her arm and rescue Denji. Beam and Angel revive Denji, and he stops to think about what he's doing wrong. Beam, who seems to know a lot about the Chainsaw Devil pre-Denji, tells him that he used to be able to move a lot faster by throwing out his chains from his chainsaws and hooking onto buildings to swing around. This prompts Denji to then think about his fights with other hybrids and how they all use their powers with a lot more ingenuity than him. And if he wants to win, he's gonna have to start doing that as well. So I know what you're thinking. Denji's gonna start, swinging from building to building using his chainsaws like a really violent Peter Parker. But has Denji ever done what we expect him to do? In fact, has Denji ever done the most logical thing in any given situation? You think being told directly how he can use his powers a little more effectively would prompt him to do exactly that? No. Denji's not gonna do that at all. I want you to stop and think about what you think Denji's gonna do in this situation. Go ahead, I'll wait. Okay, got it? All right, whatever you thought he was gonna do, you were wrong. He unhooks his chain and uses it like a fucking horse rein to ride Beam into battle. You did not expect him to do that. Surprisingly, it works, and he's able to hold his own much better than before. Oh, this is the Typhoon Devil, by the way. It's dead now. Denji didn't learn nothing from Beam and Reze, though. After Beam gets defeated by Reze, Denji uses his chains to tie Reze up and jump into the water where she can't explode, and the two settle at the bottom of the sea. Reze wakes up on the beach and Denji tells her that he's not going to arrest her and let her go instead. Call it lingering feelings, but it goes against his morals. Before she leaves, Denji asks Reze if she wants to run away with him. She responds to this question by breaking his neck and walking away. But Denji is persistent. He shouts after her that if she wants to run away, he'll be waiting for her at the cafe she worked at. This request seems super out of the blue, but it also shows Denji's empathetic side. Let's think back to before Reze revealed herself to when she was expressing concern for Denji's situation. Reze questioned whether or not it was right for someone as young as him to be used as a weapon to fight devils, and she's right, it's not okay. Denji's way too young to be throwing himself into that kind of danger so frequently, not to mention too stupid. The only reason he survived is because he's essentially immortal. If he weren't, he would have died to the Bat Devil. But if this is true for him, it's also true for Reze. She may not be as young as she says, we have no way of knowing, but we can still assume she's being used the same way that Denji is, and probably has been for a very long time. Every concern that she expressed for Denji can be reflected back onto herself, and knowing that, Denji wants to help her. Denji wasn't willing to take that risk and go through that door when it would only benefit him. But he's ready now, knowing that it would benefit her as well. Now, it's easy to write off everything Reze did as her trying to get closer to Denji, but allow me to explain why she was being more honest than she portrayed. For starters, why did she offer to run away with Denji? Sure, we can look at this and say that she was trying to lure him away from public safety, but let's read between the lines a little. Right after making that offer, she told Denji that she would protect him and make him happy. How would she protect him? Denji didn't know that Reze was the bomb hybrid. How would a normal schoolgirl be able to protect him? Why would she need to protect him in the first place? Reze wouldn't know that public safety would kill Denji if he tries to leave. Reze wouldn't know that there are assassins after Denji's heart. How and why would she need or be able to protect him at all? Okay, so maybe she was trying to portray herself as just a naive schoolgirl who didn't know about the extent of his situation. But when Denji rejects her offer, she looks legitimately upset. Keep in mind, right after this moment, she attacks Denji. There's no reason to put on an act anymore. She's not pretending to be upset, she just is. Need more proof that Reze was being honest? Alright, right before their fight, Reze finds out that Denji's with Makima and laments that even if they had run away, it would have been pointless. Come on, she's not acting anymore. It was an offer for Denji to get away from public safety, but it was also an offer for her to escape from her situation. So yeah, it might seem absurd to suggest that she was ever being honest, but if you think I'm crazy, then tell me why Reze goes to the cafe. She's willing to go through that door too, despite all of the risks that it presents. This is what I'm talking about. We didn't need a thought bubble from Reze explaining that she was being honest the entire time and that she really does like Denji. Fujimoto's subtle writing told us all we needed to know to draw our own conclusion. But ultimately, Reze's assessment was correct. They can't escape from Makima. Reze represents a lot for Denji. Someone who could love him unconditionally, a chance for him to forge his own path, free of public safety, and more than anything, she represents a choice for him to make. Unfortunately, that choice doesn't fit in the scenario that Makima is trying to create. So Reze has to go. If your brain is the size of a pea, allow me to clear things up for you. Makima isn't quite who she says she is either. The following night, Denji dreams of the door again, and Pochita warns him again not to open it. This is a reminder that Pochita has something to hide from Denji, but symbolically it also represents how Denji could never truly run away with Reze, and that's manifesting in his dream with Pochita warning him not to take such risks. Denji's had a rough time with all the enemies coming after him so far, but he has no idea what's still in store. Thanks to the widespread destruction from his fight with Reze, Denji begins appearing in the news media, and this means that the world at large is now aware of his existence. This means that enemies besides the Gun Devil will start coming after him. Makima predicts that governments from around the world will begin deploying to capture him. We've questioned this before, but why is there so much fuss over the Chainsaw Devil? The Chainsaw Devil is strong, sure, but not the strongest, and Denji's not even particularly good with his powers. They're certainly not after his skill. Devils exist in a perpetual cycle of life and death. When a devil dies in the human world, they are reborn in hell. And when they die in hell, they're reborn in the human world. In a technical sense, they never truly die because they'll always be reborn. But they never remember their time in hell or any of their previous human lives. That is, of course, except for one exception. Many devils remember the last sound they heard before they died, and strangely enough, many of them remember the same sound. The sound of a chainsaw's engine revving. That's certainly an interesting coincidence. This knowledge certainly doesn't tell us why everyone's after Denji, but it suggests there's a lot more to the Chainsaw Devil than we're aware of. Public safety isn't interested in losing such an asset, so they bring together all of their forces to protect him from the coming onslaught, including the most valuable asset under their control. Kobeni's car. Never in my life have I been as erect as I am now. Oh, that was exhausting. Oh my god. Fun fact. In the very first Chainsaw Man popularity poll, Kobeni's car came in 7th. Kobeni came in 8th. You cannot make that shit up. Whoa. Okay, let's get a little rerun of what just happened. So Power forced Kobeni to let her in the driver's seat. Then she claimed Kobeni's car as her own, to which Kobeni is too timid to fight back. Then Power ran over Denji and another agent. And what does she do next? She tries to gaslight Kobeni by saying it's her fault for letting her drive in the first place. God, I love her. Best of all, the agent she ran over and killed was actually an imposter after Denji, which she is all too ready to take credit for. Poor Kobeni, man, someone give her a hug. Makima's prediction was right, and assassins have started to come after Denji. Hitmen from America, the Soviet Union's Santa Claus and their army of puppets, Quan Chi from China. How do I describe Quan Chi? Okay, how about this? Shonen Jump has an app where you can read most of their catalog of manga. However, not everything is available on there. Things like Golden Kamui or Dandadan that deal with more adult themes are unavailable and have to be read through a web browser. Chainsaw Man, despite Denji's non-stop raging erection, is available on the Shonen Jump app, except for one chapter, and one chapter only. Chapter 59 is not available through the Shonen Jump app and has to be read through a browser. That's because chapter 59 opens with a full-page color spread of Quan Chi in the middle of a lesbian orgy. Then in the next chapter, she goes on an absolute rampage, decapitating dozens of Santa Claus's puppets in seconds before beating the shit out of Denji's group. Basically, Quan Chi is super strong and super gay. I love her. Quan Chi's only real weakness is her girlfriends, a weakness that Kishibe quickly takes advantage of by taking them hostage and forcing Quan Chi to sit down for a little negotiation. Their conversation is a cover-up, though. The real message is being conveyed by Kishibe's notepad. He tells Quan Chi that he's planning to kill Makima and wants her help with it. It's not yet clear what he's planning or why, but come on. It's hardly a secret at this point that Makima is planning something herself. Quan Chi refuses and throws Kishibe out a window. Right onto Kobeni's car. Oh, that is unfortunate. Surprisingly, though, Quan Chi is not the major threat in this situation. No. The worst is yet to come. While all this is going down, Santa Claus forms a contract with the Hell Devil to drag all of them directly into hell, which is depicted as a flower field with a sky full of doors. Boy, that's sure weird. A lot of doors in this manga. Wonder what's up with that. Once there, all of the devils start freaking out because they know what's in hell. Devils so powerful that they've never once died. Devils representing all of humanity's greatest fears. Devils such as hey, yo, I know this motherfucker is yoinked off everybody's arms, but real talk. If the Darks never wore pants, would he wear them like this or like this? Santa Claus forms another contract with the Darkness Devil. In exchange for bringing Chainsaw's heart, she wants the power to kill Makima. Wait a minute, wasn't she here to capture Denji for the Soviet Union? Was it all a deception? Was she after Makima the entire time? Man, the suspense just keeps building. We've seen what people are willing to do to capture Denji. How much are they willing to do to kill Makima? I mean, they're giving up Chainsaw to do that. Santa Claus's wish is granted, and the Darkness Devil just kind of gets to work killing everybody. Cool dude, chill dude, good old Darkness. Love to get a drink with that dude. In a well-lit bar, preferably. Since everybody's weak little soy boys, Makima is forced to come out and save them. She even manages to damage the Darkness Devil, but it comes at a great cost. Don't worry, she'll be fine. Makima drags everybody back to the human world, where they have a very freaky looking darkness powered Santa Claus to deal with now. The problem is that any damage she takes is immediately regenerated while she's in the dark, and she only grows more powerful as night falls. So imagine you're Denji for a second. Maybe down a bottle of moonshine to slow your brain down to his level. You have an enemy who heals constantly while in the dark. How are you gonna deal with that? Aha. Light yourself on fire.
I don't know, what if they're lying? We should still protect the villagers. Oh, don't worry, I took care of that. You can't get touched if you're on fire.
You know, actually, I'm torn on this. Is it unbelievably stupid, or is it one of Denji's best ideas? Because, I mean, it's not like he's gonna die while being on fire. I think it's so stupid that it's accidentally smart, because, yeah, it does work. Denji defeats her, and all's well that ends well. Right? This battle had a devastating effect on public safety. Galgali and Beam were killed. Kobeni quit. Angel lost both of his arms. They were only able to reattach one of Aki's. And Power is left terrified of the dark. She really got the short end of the stick here. Aki and Denji are forced to sleep in shifts because she keeps screaming throughout the night, and they have to constantly remind her that the Darkness Devil isn't coming for them. It's shocking to see the proud and confident Power reduced to this pathetic state. It's hitting Denji hard, too. Makima offers to take Denji on a vacation, just the two of them, alone, but he refuses. He feels like Power needs him and he can't leave her be. He's got a golden opportunity to spend some time with Makima and he's throwing it away. Why? Power is so afraid of the Darkness Devil that she can't even bathe by herself. And there Denji is to help her. Naked with her, bathing with her, sleeping with her, and none of this excites him. Power isn't just some girl to him anymore. She's his friend, his partner, somebody he cares deeply for. Denji isn't the only one who's changed though. Power is terrified that Denji will hate her for making him miss out on his trip. Power, who tried to kill him not that long ago. She's so afraid of being hated that she forces Denji to drink her blood as an Wait, what? What the fuck? In what way is that an apology? That's some kink shit right there. I don't know, guys. Aha. Subtle character writing. I like that. Power is the blood fiend. She loves blood and frequently expresses a desire to drink it. And considering her narcissistic personality, you have to assume that she views her own blood as something pretty valuable. Power is offering Denji an apology that she herself would want, showing how important their friendship is to her. But can you even call it a friendship at this point, seeing all the intimate acts that they're engaging in? Denji reflects on what Makima told him so long ago, how intimate acts feel better the more you know your partner. But despite knowing Power really well, these intimate acts that should excite him simply don't. Denji comes to the realization that some things just aren't meant to be known, and with that in mind, he finally responds to Pochita. Whatever's behind the door, he doesn't need to know. Denji started off as an extraordinarily ignorant character. Over time, he's experienced things that have shown him the harsh realities of the world, and some of it's been painful and disappointing. He's come to the realization that sometimes ignorance is bliss. Aki decides it's time to make his yearly trip to his family's gravesite, and Denji and Power decide to come with. Of course, they're pests the whole way, bickering and causing trouble and bugging Aki. He finally catches some peace once night falls, and I just love this panel of Denji and Aki sitting watching the snow. When Denji first met Aki and Power, they were both people that he thought he could never get along with. Their personalities just didn't mesh with him. Yet here he is, sitting with those same two people. People he cares about enough to give up a golden opportunity with Makima. The two people he trusts and cares about the most. In the original version of this script, I went off on a tangent here about how Aki has grown as a character, but in reviewing it, I realized that this video isn't about Aki. I want to make it perfectly clear that Aki's character development is both believable and well executed, but here's what you need to know for now. Aki's desire to kill the Gun Devil has been replaced by a desire to protect Denji and Power, to the point that Aki's willing to give up on the gun entirely, but that's not an option. Days before the operation to kill the Gun Devil, the future devil shows Aki a terrible future. One wherein he and Power will be killed by Denji, and then the devil that devils fear most will appear. Not knowing what to do, Aki goes to Makima to find some way to avoid this dreadful future. You know Makima. She always knows what to do and is 100% trustworthy all of the time. Aki is willing to make any sacrifice, form any contract with any devil in order to keep Denji and Power safe. And with that in mind, Makima orders Aki to form a contract with her. In America, the president is on the phone talking about how Makima has to be stopped. He's forming a contract and offers 1 year off the lifespan of every American citizen. Chainsaw Man takes place in the year 1997, and at that time, there were 273 million people in the United States. Still though, 1 year off of everybody's life is a small price to pay, right? Well, how many people die in a year? In that same year, more than 2 million people died in the US. So imagine how many people died the second the president formed this contract. This is a massive sacrifice. Whatever he's planning is no joke. In chapter 55, a devil hunter named Subaru mentioned that devils have keener noses than humans. In chapter 7, the Bat Devil decided what humans he would eat based on their smell from miles away. And in chapter 1, Makima mentioned that Denji smelled neither human nor devil. The President of the United States offers the Gun Devil 273 million years worth of life. In exchange, he wants the Gun Devil to kill Makima, the Control Devil. We've posed the question before of what devils Makima could possibly be contracted with. Every time we see her, she's using a different power. Every time she takes damage, it immediately regenerates. And everyone around her is either afraid of her or infatuated with her. After all, the easiest ways to control people are through fear or affection. You wanna know why Aki likes Makima? Because he sure doesn't remember. It's because Aki's being controlled by Makima. You want to know why Makima has access to so much power at so little cost? Because Makima isn't contracted with the devils who wield those powers. She's controlling them too. And you want to know why Makima never seems to retain any damage? Because Makima is a weapon being used by the Japanese government, and per her contract with the Prime Minister, any damage she would take is instead redirected onto an innocent civilian. Fujimoto has been warning us the entire time. Makima is and always has been the greatest threat. Denji awakes to someone incessantly ringing his doorbell. He goes to answer the door, but Pochita warns him not to. His telephone rings, and he decides to answer that first. It's Makima. She tells him they failed to defeat the Gun Devil, and that it took over a dead body and escaped. She tells him that the Gun Fiend is now at his front door. Denji thinks she's joking and believes that it's Aki coming home, but he won't know until he opens the door. Denji was half right. We've established already that when a devil takes over a human's corpse, the human's personality is overwritten, but this is only partly true. The human's personality can remain to some degree, but it varies from fiend to fiend. Power seems to display no relation to our original human, but Galgali the Violence Fiend even still had memories from when he was still human. Whether it's because he's still partially alive, or if he's just fading out into the Gun Devil's subconscious, Aki's in there, but he's not entirely aware of what's happening. In his mind, he's a kid again. He spots Denji and wants to have a snowball fight. Okay, I know this is all pretty heavy, but did you know that people refer to Aki's gun fiend form as Aki 47? It's kind of like AK-47. That's fun. I like that. In his confusion, Aki keeps attacking Denji and Power, and even innocent civilians passing by. Aki thinks this is all a game, but in reality he's causing massive and widespread destruction. Denji does what he can to protect people while trying desperately to get through to Aki, but Aki's so powerful that there isn't much he can do. The civilians recognize that Denji's fighting back and beg him to keep them safe. This turn of events is so utterly tragic. All Aki wanted was to protect others from the Gun Devil, and to keep Denji and Power safe and happy above all else. Yet now he's become the very threat he opposed, and he's attacking the people that he cares about most. Denji knows that this is the last thing Aki would have wanted. Denji knows what he has to do. When Aki first met the Future Devil, it offered to tell him how he'd die. It told him that he would die in the worst way possible. Aki brushed him off, saying that he didn't care how he died, as long as he got to accomplish his goals. The Future Devil is only telling part of the truth. Aki is going to die in the worst possible way. For Denji, that is. Aki's death is nothing like Himeno's. Denji was close to Aki. He trusted him. Aki saved his ass so many times, and before he died, all Aki wanted was to keep Denji safe and happy, no matter the cost. Himeno may have called Denji friend, but Aki truly embodied what that meant. Denji can't just move past that. He's racked with grief and guilt over Aki's death. He's stuck in an endless loop of regretting what happened and wondering if things could have ended differently. And as she always is when Denji loses his way, Makima is there. She takes Denji back to her place where she has a lot of dogs. That makes sense. She reminds Denji that she owes him a favor for defeating the Gun Devil, and that she'll grant any wish he wants. Now, we know what Denji wanted when this offer was made, but things have changed. Denji's values are different now. He's not horny anymore. He's sad. After giving it some thought, Denji decides that he wants to be Makima's dog. Okay, maybe he is still horny. Denji, I don't know if you're ready for that level of fetish shit. Denji expresses frustration over how things ended with Aki. He wonders if Aki could have survived if Denji had known how to help him. He blames himself for Aki's death and feels terrible about it. He decides that since Makima is smarter than him, he'll leave all of the decision making up to her. That way he won't have to regret his actions ever again. But then the doorbell rings. Makima tells Denji that she invited Power over. Then she tells Denji to let Power in, so Makima can kill her. Denji is shocked and confused by what he's hearing, but dogs don't think for themselves. Dogs don't make their own decisions. Dogs listen to what their owners say and do as they're told. So despite Pochita's warning, Denji reaches for the door handle, rationalizing that this is all some bad joke. When he opens the door, Power will be there with a birthday cake to celebrate his upcoming birthday. And that's exactly what happens. Power comes inside and they eat cake. Then they play video games and drink Mountain Dew all night long. Denji lived happily ever after and never had to feel bad again. Yay! No. Denji can't process what just happened. He begs Makima to tell him this is all just a bad dream, but she doesn't. Instead, she laughs. She just killed Power, and she's laughing. The mask is off. She has no need to manipulate Denji any longer. She got what she wanted. Makima reminds Denji that when he gained his power, he formed a contract with Pochita. Denji dreamed of living a normal life, and Pochita gave Denji his heart in exchange for being shown that dream. However, thanks to Denji's skewed perception of what a normal life looks like, anything above the poverty he was living in before would, in his mind, achieve that dream. So how could Makima get Denji to break that contract? The answer? Relativity. Yeah, that son of a bitch again. First, Makima built Denji up. She gave him a job, money, food. She gave him an older brother to guide him, a younger sister to protect. She made this his new normal. She gave him a life so much better than he could have ever imagined. Then she tore it all down. Makima showed Denji a life so good that if he lost it, he could never feel happy again. Denji can't go back to living in poverty anymore now that he knows how much better life can be. Denji asks Makima why she would do such a horrible thing, and she answers. Oh boy, does she answer. Denji had a chance to stop Makima from killing Power, a chance to challenge her and protect his friend. But he was so afraid of the consequences of his choices that he selfishly left that choice up to someone else. What Denji didn't realize is that a lack of a choice is still in and of itself a choice. After all, Denji opened the door, not Makima, and Power died as a result. We have no way of knowing if Aki could have been saved or brought back, but Denji didn't even try. He didn't try to restrain him, he didn't try to capture him. He didn't know what to do, so he killed him. Whether it was the right choice or not, Aki's dead because of that choice. Denji's not the victim of circumstance that he makes himself out to be. Whether intentional or not, he brought all of this misfortune onto himself. Even way back when he was selling his own organs to pay off the Yakuza. That was his father's fault, right? Wrong. Denji's father didn't kill himself. Denji killed him. Pochita tried to hide that truth from Denji because he knew he would push that blame onto himself. Now, Denji's lost the will to dream of a normal life because he no longer feels like he deserves it. Makima broke him, broke his conviction, his heart, and his boner, and that one was really hard if you know what I'm saying. And why? Because now Denji is a perfect husk of a man ripe for being controlled. A puppet for her to execute her ambition with. Makima put in all of this work, all of this time and effort. She gave up the gun devil so she could lock down Denji the chainsaw hybrid. What could possibly be the motivation? The following day, Makima takes Denji to public safety where Kishibe ambushes them. This is the plan he tried to get Quan Chi in on. Groups of soldiers attack and fire on Makima while 6 agents give their lives to form a contract. They ask the Hell Devil to kill Makima and drag her into hell. They're going full fighting game combo on her ass and they cannot be stopped. This is a plan that has been thought out to perfect execution, except for one variable that they didn't consider. Makima calls out to Chainsaw Man to save her. Before he died, Aki was shown a future wherein he and Power would be killed by Denji. Then the devils fear most would appear. Aki's dead, Power is dead, and now the Hell Devil is here to clap some cheeks. I've posed the question a number of times now as to why Chainsaw is so special, when chainsaws are hardly the scariest things out there. We know that a devil's strength is based on how feared their name is, correct? Well, what if human fear is not the only contributing factor? Wouldn't that make the devil that devils fear most one of the most powerful devils in existence? The answer is yes. Makima explains to Kishibe that Chainsaw Man is a sort of superhero in hell. If you ask for his help, he'll chop down any devil in his way. Yet at the same time, any devil that asks for his help will themselves be killed. But the real reason Chainsaw Man is so feared? Any devil that Chainsaw Man eats will have their name erased from existence. Their names are erased from history and human consciousness. Makima asks Kishibe if he remembers the Nazis, and he has no idea what she's talking about. That's right, Chainsaw Man is a world where everybody looked at World War II and kind of just said, "I forgore." I realize this might have made it look like that was not my intention. God, I even got rid of the Son of Hitler book and this is still happening. What the fuck? It's the only true death that a devil can face. Makima is the only one who can remember the names of those who are erased from existence, and their names eventually fade from her memory too. The only reason that she's able to remember them is that her ability to completely control anything allows her to have complete control over her own memory. Makima wants to use Chainsaw Man's power to create a better world. Yeah, wouldn't you know it, Makima has good intentions. Although I personally can't imagine a good world where power is dead, so she kinda fucked that one up. Death, war, NFTs. Makima wants to use Chainsaw Man's power to get rid of such terrible, awful things so that humanity can be happier. The problem is that Makima looks up to Chainsaw Man too much. She's self-admittedly a fan of his and puts him up on a pedestal. Makima's power only allows her to control those that she looks down on. So if she wants to control Chainsaw Man, she has to defeat him and prove that she's above him. Makima did, after all, ask for Chainsaw Man's help, and that means he'll come to kill her too. But she's pretty damn powerful, so this ought to be one hell of a fight. As a side note, I want to mention why I've been referring to him as Chainsaw Man and not Denji. Denji's not in control here. It's not made expressly clear, but I believe the original Chainsaw Devil, Pochita, has taken over completely. Or at least partially. It's possible it's a sort of mix of their psyches. Chainsaw Man is much more powerful and much more resourceful with his abilities than Denji was. He also acts just the way that Makima described him, helping anybody who asks for his help. After he kills Makima, he hears another call for help and runs off. This next scene is so brilliant that I'm not going to talk about it. Listen, I'm bringing it up so no one thinks I skipped it, but I'm not gonna go into detail. Chainsaw Man goes to get a burger and it's just the best scene in the entire manga. I'll happily spoil the entire story progression of this manga for you, but I will not spoil this. It's just, it's too good. Plus, this video is long enough as is. The only thing I'll say is that Chainsaw Man is acting upon the dreams that Denji conveyed to Pochita. Going to get a nice burger and taking a girl out on a date. It's cute. Kobeni has a lot of fun. Makima the Joy Sucker reappears when she hears Chainsaw Man having fun, and she brings with her a bunch of hybrids, including Katana, Reze, and Quan Chi. Oh, Quan Chi's a hybrid, by the way. I didn't get a chance to talk about that. They're all being controlled by Makima, and they attack Chainsaw Man. But these soy boy hybrids are no match for the alpha Chad energy that is Chainsaw Man. The hybrids barely manage to drag Chainsaw Man up into the air, where Makima fingers him out into space. She figures even he can't survive without oxygen. But Makima, oh Makima, you don't understand the raw, big dick energy you're dealing with here. Chainsaw Man rips his own heart out and throws it back down to Earth, where it grows a new body. Yeah. Then he lassos the remaining enemies. Just look how turned on Makima is, and takes them all down in one beautiful attack. Oh, if I could talk about how much I love the choreography in this fucking manga, I'd be here all day. Of course, Makima's still not dead, and she appears before Chainsaw Man again. This time, she's ready to play her trump card, though. All around the world, the news media begins reporting that Denji defeated the Gun Devil. The whole world was afraid of the Gun Devil, and now they know who defeated it. The people take to the streets and begin praising Chainsaw Man's name, and in doing so, they weaken him. Makima has carefully revealed Denji to the world, and in doing so, has made their fear of the Chainsaw Devil go down. They now view him as a superhero worthy of praise. Devils fear him and give him strength, but humans love him and take it away. Makima then fires an attack off on Kobeni, and Chainsaw Man is forced to take the hit to save her. He's finally been defeated, and Makima seems almost disappointed with her own victory. But hey, things are never really that simple, are they? That's right, baby, my girl Power is back, woo! In all of her gross, blood devil glory, Best Girl is back, let's fucking go! She do kinda got the devil booty though. Okay, what the fuck is happening? Pochita reached out to Power through the blood that Denji drank. Pochita offers to let Power eat some of his flesh so that she can revive as a devil, and in exchange, he wants her to save Denji. She happily agrees, even though it means facing Makima again. But despite the power-up she got from eating the Chainsaw Devil's flesh, she's still facing Makima, and Power is quickly overwhelmed. Makima commands Power to hand over Chainsaw Man, but she runs instead. Makima's control no longer works on Power, which she herself is confused by, but I think the answer is clear. Makima told Power to hand over Chainsaw Man, but Power's not trying to save Chainsaw Man, she's saving Denji. It may seem like simple semantics, but that kind of thing matters in this world. Makima wants Chainsaw Man, but Power's not trying to save the hero of hell. She's not trying to save the Chainsaw Devil, she's saving her friend Denji, and Makima never told her to hand over Denji. Denji regains consciousness inside a dumpster with Power, where they share a very cute but probably very stinky hug. Power tells Denji that she's here to save him, but Denji's lost the will to go on. He's so broken up about losing her and Aki that he feels like it's just his time to die. He got what he wanted out of life and he doesn't need anything more. Power won't hear it though. Instead, she forms a contract with Denji. Power wants Denji to find the Blood Devil when it reincarnates back in the human world, then turn them back into Power by befriending them. That way they can be together again. In exchange, Denji gets Power's blood so he can survive. Then Denji wakes back up in the real world. That's right, Power really is dead. There's no get out of hell free cards here. I really want to talk about this scene, but I can't yet. We're gonna circle back, just keep it in mind. Thanks to Power's help, Denji was able to escape Makima, and now Kishibe offers to set him free from her grasp. Of course, Kishibe's plan to kill Makima utterly failed, so what this really means is going on the run and avoiding her, along with Kobeni, who's now a target. For the rest of their lives, they'll have to hide in the shadows, and that means that Denji can never be Chainsaw Man again, because it would draw too much attention to himself. Kobeni starts freaking out because she doesn't want to die, and expresses jealousy over how Denji is immortal. In response, Denji tells her how things aren't exactly perfect for him either. How Denji now knows that he was being used the entire time and he never really had any freedom to begin with. He was just being naive. Kobeni then imparts the kind of basic knowledge that most people already have. The kind of things that Denji has yet to realize. She asks him the most important question that he's ever been asked. Isn't that just normal? She tells him that a life free of bad things doesn't exist except in your dreams. And it hits Denji like a truck. Denji realizes that, like everything else, he brought this on himself. Denji wanted to live a normal life, and that's exactly what he got. Looking at his situation on the surface, is it really any different from anybody else? He works for a corporation that takes advantage of him, he works too hard for very little return, and despite all of this, he still has to see sadness and death. That describes my life. I bet it describes yours too. Then Kobeni asks Denji if he really wanted to be normal, as if that's a bad thing to want. Because for many of us, we dream of living extraordinary lives. We work towards breaking free of mediocrity and normality in order to make our lives mean something. Kobeni was taken advantage of by her family, made to work too hard, and still she saw sadness and death, and she wants nothing more than to break free of that. That's why she's envious of Denji. Then Denji hears it. The news is talking about him, talking about how much everybody loves him. He didn't know they'd been singing his praises this entire time, and he's shocked by how much they love him. And it's like a switch gets flipped. Denji's not normal. He's Chainsaw Man. And you know what? He's sick and tired of eating bread with jam on it every day. It's not enough anymore. Because Makima made that normal, and normal's not enough anymore. He wants steak, and he wants girls, and he wants to fuck constantly. Horny Denji is back, baby. He's found his motivation, and he knows what he wants. He doesn't want to be normal. He wants to be special. He wants to be Chainsaw Man. And that means he needs to kill Makima. And here we find ourselves once again. Denji sits in a graveyard awaiting Makima and her people. He addresses Makima and asks her a simple question. In the perfect world she's trying to create, will bad movies still exist? She responds that the world would be better without them, and he decides that if that's the case, he has to kill her. I cannot overstate the importance of this simple exchange. This simple question is a masterclass in subtle writing and my favorite exchange in the entire series. On the surface, it's just a question about movies, but it's so much more than that. It's a clashing of their fundamental ideals, as well as a sign of major character development. If we asked Denji in the dumpster this same question, I'm sure he would agree with Makima. Dumpster Denji was blinded by grief and unable to see past that pain. He lost sight of anything beyond what he'd already experienced and decided that the pain he felt did not outweigh the positives he gained. The food he ate, the video games he played, the family he found. None of it was worth the pain of losing them. He believed that he would have been happier if he never knew any of that and continued living in poverty, ignorant of anything better. By becoming Chainsaw Man, Denji opened a door that led into this life. Denji had a choice, way back then, to continue being Chainsaw Man or to be killed by Makima. By choosing to join public safety, Denji stepped through that door and opened himself up to all of the pain associated with those experiences. Dumpster Denji would have rather left that door closed. But Denji has had time to process everything that's happened. He's had time to think about what he's gained, what he stands to lose, and what he still has to experience. Life itself is a series of doors, and Denji stands before one now. That door represents the unknown hidden behind it, the infinite possibilities available after opening it, the past he has to confront, the future still ahead of him, the ignorance he stands to lose, the opportunity he stands to gain, and the choice he has to make. Denji knows that if he goes through that door, he risks being hurt even worse than he is now. But there's also a chance he'll come out on the other side happier than he ever knew was possible. Makima wants to knock that door off its hinges. She wants to remove the possibility of pain by getting rid of everything bad in the world. But Denji knows better. Experiencing pain and happiness go hand in hand. You can't understand the good without experiencing the bad. You have to watch 9 bad movies before you can truly appreciate one good one. That's why Denji has to defeat Makima and walk through that door. But before he can do that, he has to actually defeat Makima. So how is he going to pull that off? He doesn't. He gets his heart ripped out. Kind of underwhelming after all that build-up. I wrote all those big words and he just kind of miffed it at the end. Nah, you knew it wasn't going to go down like that. Denji pulls the ultimate Uno reverse card and strikes down Makima. This is played out brilliantly too, because if you look in the crowd of Makima's followers, Denji's in there. So I'm sure you have a few questions. How did Makima not notice Denji standing right next to her? Why are there two Denjis? Why does this attack work on Makima when none of the others did? Well, allow me to elaborate. Denji knew he couldn't defeat Makima in a straight battle, so he racked all 2 of his brain cells, well, 1 now, to find a way to defeat her. He remembered that as Chainsaw Man, he was able to rip out his heart and grow a new body. So he used Power's blood to keep his original body running while the doppelganger got the shit kicked out of it. As for why the attack works, Denji explains that the chainsaw he used was made using Power's blood, and as such is able to manipulate Makima's blood in order to slow the healing process. Don't ask me how he made the chainsaw though, I have no idea. Blood has iron in it, so maybe he extracted the iron and I don't know. Now for the ultimate question. How the hell did Denji get the drop on Makima? Way back in chapter 2, Makima mentioned that Denji's body has 2 scents, 1 human and 1 devil. Denji made an assumption about Makima based on all of his interactions with her, that she doesn't identify people by their faces because she views people as so far beneath her. Instead, she memorizes the smells of people who interest her. Extrapolating from that, Denji made a bet that Makima never memorized his scent at all. She was always looking at Chainsaw Man, not Denji. Therefore, even if he was standing right next to her, she wouldn't recognize him without Pochita's scent. That's right, Makima's sense of smell was used to not only subtly foreshadow that she was a devil, but also how she would ultimately be defeated. That shit is brilliant. There's no other word for it. Before we move on, I want to point out a couple things about this page. First of all, the chainsaw that Denji made has horns that resemble Power's. Plus, Denji's pose resembles how Aki looked when he struck down Reze. Not to mention how Denji is dressed like Aki when Aki was first introduced. This is representative of the impact that Aki and Power have had on Denji, and how he wouldn't have been able to defeat Makima without their indirect help. It's actually really ironic how Makima used and manipulated all of them in order to draw Chainsaw Man out. But in doing so, she provided Denji with the tools he would use to defeat her. Hell, even having Kishibe train Denji came back to bite her. Kishibe taught Denji to fight using his brain, and that's the only reason he was able to use Makima's sense of smell against her. Makima thought of Denji as so far beneath her that she never really thought of him as a threat at all. The fact that Makima was never looking at Denji became his greatest weapon to defeat her. Of course, she isn't really defeated just yet. Power's blood is slowing Makima's regeneration, but she will heal eventually. But Denji's already thought about that. Kishibe comes and picks the pair up. He then leaves Denji to finish the job, but not without some parting words. Don't you die, Denji. Out of all the devil hunters I've met up to now, you're the one most suited for the job. Of course, we know that this is just a nice way of Kishibe calling Denji batshit crazy, and as if to prove his point, Denji puts his plan into motion. How do you kill someone that's unkillable? Any damage that Makima takes is redirected onto an innocent civilian. Even now, the longer Denji takes to finish the job, the more people get hurt. He can't burn her, he can't chop her up, he can't toss her off a building, but at the end of the day, Denji doesn't want to do any of that. Despite everything that's happened, Denji still has feelings for Makima. Maybe it's that she introduced him to this whole world and taught him so many lessons. Maybe he's just chasing some idealized version of her. Maybe he just cannot get past that absolute dump truck she's packing. Whatever the case may be, Denji doesn't want to kill Makima. He wants to accept her for who she is and bear her sins with her by becoming one with her. But how do you essentially absorb someone? Well, how do you absorb nutrients and make that a part of you? Yeah, that's right. He's gonna eat her. You really gotta appreciate how Fujimoto made sure to draw out some really delicious looking food here, even though we all know damn well what kind of meat it is. We already know that devils that Chainsaw Man eats have their names erased from existence, so maybe this works because Denji shares a part of that power. Or maybe it's like a semantics loophole where Denji isn't attacking Makima per se because he's trying to become one with her, but it does work. Even Kishibe can't fully understand it, but I think ultimately that's why it works. Denji has so many screws loose that nobody else would have ever thought about doing this. Nobody thinking logically would have thought of a plan like this, much less actually executed it.
Was that the bite of 87?
Yeah, it didn't work. Makima's alive. Humanity is screwed. We're all gonna die. Okay. It worked, but it didn't. Okay, Makima is dead. But the control devil has already incarnated back into the human world. I assume once Makima got into hell, the darkness devil hiked up his jorts and took her out again. This is the new control devil, and her name is Nayuta. Kishibe explains that he grabbed her before the government could, fearing that they would just turn her into another Makima, and he's absolutely right. The Soviets had Santa Claus, China had Quan Chi, Reze was also from the Soviet Union. We've seen how each of the major world powers wants to abuse devil power rather than stop it. It's painfully clear that the world views devil power not as a threat to be stopped, but as weapons to be controlled. Had any of these world governments found Nayuta, we would absolutely have Makima 2.0 on our hands. So Kishibe's got a plan to avoid that. Leave the powerful devil child with the uneducated teenage cannibal. Yeah, that's gonna work out great. Okay, hold your objections. It's not as crazy as it seems. You ready for a very, very cute scene? Pochita appears before Denji in a dream and tells him how he always dreamed of being hugged, but it never came true because he was so strong. Please leave a like on this video if you would give Pochita a hug. Denji made Pochita's dream come true, and now Pochita wants Denji to do the same for the Control Devil. The Control Devil always wanted to form equal relationships with others, but she never could because everybody was afraid of her. That's why Makima did what she did, in order to create a world where that would be possible. Pochita wants Denji to create that world for the Control Devil. Is that not just the cutest page this could have ended on? All of that death, destruction, and sadness led to this uplifting ending. Denji harbors doubts about his own ability to pull this off, but I actually think he's the perfect person for the job. Denji was able to form just such a relationship with Pochita, a devil. Half of Chainsaw Man is about Denji forming a makeshift family with Aki and Power, two people who, on the surface, have dislikable personalities. And more than anything, Denji was never afraid of Makima. He had an intense admiration for her. He longed to be closer to her, and even though that feeling was born out of manipulation, it wasn't born out of being controlled by her the way that Aki's feelings were. Denji is perhaps the most suitable person to provide an equal relationship for Nayuta. This too is a doorway into a new chapter in his life, and we can tell that it's one that he chooses to step through. And that's it. That's the end. Well, the end of part 1 at least. This was played off super well, by the way. For weeks leading up to this chapter's release, WSJ's social media kept referring to chapter 97 as the final chapter. They heavily implied that they would be announcing an anime along with the last chapter, which they did, but I don't think any of us were expecting a part 2. Because of the way that I avoid spoilers like the plague, I still had no idea when I went to read this chapter. I felt a really bittersweet feeling of excitement when I opened it up. But oh boy, when I read that last page, I completely lost my shit. It's been more than a year since that last chapter came out, and part 2 hasn't started yet, but my excitement for it has not waned. I so look forward to seeing Denji's dumbass struggle to balance a school load while also concealing the fact that he's Chainsaw Man, then coming home to take care of his adoptive little sister Nayuta and their army of huskies. Since part 1 ended, I've read Fire Punch, the manga that Fujimoto published before Chainsaw Man, and Look Back, the one-shot that he published after part 1 ended, and let me just say, I feel pretty confident saying that Chainsaw Man is not a one-hit wonder. I have full faith that Chainsaw Man Part 2 will be incredible because, at the end of the day, it's clear that Tatsuki Fujimoto did not accidentally stumble upon gold with a brilliant concept. Everything about how Chainsaw Man is written just works beautifully. The way everything came together at the end, the way relationships formed and characters grew, the exceptional action scenes that are so much fun to watch. And it's all grounded by the way Fujimoto very carefully and subtly nudges you towards the message he's trying to tell. That's really what I love most about Chainsaw Man. Imagine how obvious it would have been that Makima was a devil if Denji had had some inner monologue about how it's so strange that she has such a strong sense of smell. Instead, Fujimoto approached it with little lines of dialogue that you're unlikely to see any real significance in. When I first read that chapter, I was shocked to find out that Makima was a devil, but in subsequent read-throughs, I'm shocked I didn't realize it sooner. And there's so much more I didn't get to cover in this video. It's insane how much is packed into this 97 chapter story. And I hope I was able to show you why Chainsaw Man is a truly brilliant manga. All right, I'll keep this short so you guys can get back to watching hentai or whatever you do. First of all, thank you for 5,000 subscribers. That's an insane number that for a long time I had lost hope of ever reaching. So that's insane. Thank you so much. Second, I'm sorry this video took so goddamn long. It was a bit of a surprise to me too. I mean, for reference, I told my thumbnail artist that I wanted to have this video out at the end of March and filling that at the beginning of April. It's now the beginning of May, so that didn't pan out. I already know what I want my next big project to be, but I'm going to take a little break away from that and focus on some smaller, shorter length projects first. So expect something along those lines in the near future. Also, while I was working on this video, Fujimoto released another one-shot called Goodbye Eri, and it's really good. That guy's just a madman. He keeps banging out bangers. I mean, I follow a lot of manga artists for like a single thing that they make that I really like, but Fujimoto's the first one I've like read multiple pieces from and loved all of. So just go read Goodbye Eri, read Fire Punch, Look Back, read Chainsaw Man. Just read all of it. The guy's really good at what he does, okay? Lastly, if you want to see more from me or just talk to me, head on over to my Twitch, twitch.tv/CaptainMack_. I stream pretty frequently and we have a lot of fun over there. We have a lot of manga readers in the chat and in our Discord right now. So if you're looking for people to talk about that kind of stuff with, we're building a small community and it's kind of awesome. So check out my Twitch. And lastly, if you can name every anime or video game that I stole music from for the sake of this video, you're a fucking loser, but you have my respect. The only hint I'll give you is that there's 14 names that I'm looking for, okay? I'll see you guys later.